Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, we're starting to get some melting going on around here, and so what that means for here in the Ozarks is now it's about mud season. Yes, it's that time of the year where the mud just doesn't seem to want to go away, and we don't dry up till somewhere close to summertime. It's always a wonderful time of the year of trying to keep the insides of your house clean because all the mud you track in out here on the farm. Before I get started, I want to make an announcement. There's been a lot of feedback from people here locally. So this is more for you folks that live here in the Ozarks about having another meeting. And I am planning. I've been planning it for a while, and then the weather and a few other factors kind of happened, and it's slowed us down. So I have a place picked out. It's a pretty nice facility. And hopefully in the next week or two, I will be able to make an announcement on when and where. And it'll be a place that, kind of in the central part of the Ozarks, sort of. I mean, it's hard. The Ozarks covers a lot of space, so it's hard to find a place that's going to be close for everyone. But it'll be open to any of you that wish to come, and not just a place to kind of meet up and meet and greet. I mean, that's part of it. But I also want to use it as a time to begin really organizing as a region to, kind of develop, some kind of organization, whether it be on a, breaking up into a local smaller scale or whatever, so that we can kind of start building a network of communities here in the Ozarks. And I will be hopefully making that announcement here soon. So be staying tuned for that. I want to talk today about something that I've talked about several times. And I want to bring it up again. It is about getting out of the cities, getting into the countryside. I get a lot of flack from people that live out like this, and especially here in the Ozarks, because I always mention the Ozarks as a good option. It may not be for everyone to move here, but it is certainly a good option. But I get some I don't know, not quite haters, but definitely critics of folks that live out in the country and here in the Ozarks to stop telling everyone about it. Stop telling everyone to move out in the country. Stop telling everyone about the Ozarks, because then they're just going to come here. Well, here's the deal. Let me, especially they'll say, well, you're going to say this online, all these liberals and stuff will move out here. Number one, I don't have really, that I can tell, very many far left progressive liberals that truly listen to this channel. I mean, there's the occasional, troll that gets on here, but people that would actually kind of listen to what I have to say, not too many of that. So I'm not worried about my message coming into the hands of some crazy, far left, progressive that wants to move out here and ruin it for everyone. And then just the fact that telling people to move out here. Listen, for those of you that live out in the country already, whether it's the Ozarks or the Appalachians, the Smoky Mountains, up in Idaho, wherever it is, look around you. There's property for sale all over. People are going to move there regardless of what you want, okay? I would much rather put out the word to people that are more like-minded and tell them, hey, you should come here. Because, if you're like-minded like us, and maybe you just still happen to live in the city or live in suburban, and you're wanting to get out, this is a good place. I'd rather encourage more like-minded people to move into my area than to just let the chips fall where they may, and you never know who's going to move in next door to you. Because those properties that are selling all around you, they're going to be bought by someone. Might as well be trying to get people that are more like-minded to buy those properties as opposed to just anybody. So there's my justification for these kind of videos. Before I get started, I do want to mention a company that I've partnered with, and I put a lot of my word behind it. I believe they're a good company. It's my Patriot Supply. Right now they're running a good special. Their prices have not increased yet. They do know that it's coming on the horizon. They're trying their best to keep their prices down, but food prices, their costs are increasing to produce this stuff. So at some point, they're going to be forced to pass this on to to the consumer. But right now, you can still get stuff pretty cheap. If you go to preparewithtravis.com, you can get a 4-week supply of food for $70 off. When you go to preparewithtravis.com, up at the very top, if you click on the My Patriot Supply logo, it'll take you to their full site, and you can see all the other things that they have. Now, I'm not saying this is the only thing you should buy. You should first spend your money on stocking up on canned foods, bulk dry foods, things like that. But it certainly is a good idea to have some long-term emergency food stored up on hand. And I believe that My Patriot Supply is just one of the best in the industry. They have one of the lowest costs, dollar per calorie on their foods, and they produce some good quality stuff. All right, so back to this getting out of the city. Have you looked at the statistics lately, just the numbers? I read an article just the other day that nearly all major cities in the United States saw an increase of crime over 2020. Almost every single one of them. Some of them had dramatic increases in crime. This is a growing trend. In fact, it's a trend all the time. I mean, look at crime statistics just say over the past century in most larger cities. They very seldom ever go down, and when they do, it's just a little bit, and then boom, they're back up again. As much as there are benefits to living in the bigger cities, there's a whole lot of negatives to it. And as we have seen just over the past couple of weeks, look at Texas alone. There's a lot of my listeners on here, and I know a lot of people that live in Texas. I've got family that live in Texas. And while some of the folks that live out in the country, they lost power too, and they struggled with the cold and the snow, they fared a whole lot better than those that lived in the big cities. They were really struggling. They were struggling because they couldn't. It was difficult for them to find ways to warm up. It was difficult for them to find food. In fact, my mother-in-law, my wife's parents, they live in Houston, Texas. And thankfully, my mother-in-law, they listen. And we've been on them for a while to stock up. And so they were prepared with their food when this happened, but she told us, she said, if we didn't have that prepared, prepped up, she goes, I don't know what we would have done. She said, we could not find, there was no food available for about a week. She said, it dried up in our area. Grocery stores were empty, the ones that were still open. Food lines were everywhere for the places that were still open, people trying to get what was left of the food. This is a common theme with big cities, folks. It's no surprise that virtually every dystopian, apocalyptic kind of movie always shows people in the cities dying quickly and divulging into this horrible, chaotic anarchy, and the people out in the country do pretty well. This isn't a big secret, folks. I understand that there are people that you're going to say, I want to, but I can't. It's just too hard. It's just too much money. It's too complicated. I got a job here. We got family here. We got all these reasons why we can't leave the cities. I hear you. It's not always easy, but it is always doable, okay? It's all about your priorities, folks. I say these things because part of me still cares, okay? I still want as many of this good people to survive all that's headed our way. And I'm telling you, with looking on the horizon of all the things that are in the works, it's going to be a lot harder, more and more difficult to survive and to thrive if you live in the cities. And when I say cities, I'm meaning the suburban too. For a long time, people thought, well, we'll move to suburbia. It's a little bit better. Well, it may be a little bit better, but it's not a lot better. And suburban areas are becoming just as bad as the cities. And they're just as densely populated. And that's the thing. When you get that many people, the population density, it doesn't even matter the whole overall population. It's the population density. It's like being stuck in a zoo. and it's kill or be killed. It's the strongest will survive and the weakest don't. Um, the biggest and the baddest are going to survive. Uh, the ultra elite, they're going to be the ones that survive. These are, I mean, this is common sense stuff. Um, and if you just see what's going on, it's crazy. What was it? Was it Baltimore? I may be wrong on the city, but I believe it was Baltimore in the last few days. Um, there's been talk about, and this came from some big activists in the city, suggesting that they should actually pay criminals to not commit crimes. Yeah, makes me want to be a criminal, doesn't it? But pay criminals not to commit crimes. Look at what's happened just over the past year. I mean, if you are not into preparedness, into self-sufficiency by now, and you've been at least a little bit awake in the last 12 months, and you're still not, on the bandwagon, I don't really know what to tell you folks. Because I don't know how much more of a wake-up call that you need. When you move out to places like here in the Ozarks, and I stand by, I think the Ozarks is one of the best. I'm not saying it's the only place. There are certainly places all over that you can find to live that can provide you kind of the same quality of things that you see around here. But it takes work. It does. And then sometimes it takes sacrifices. And maybe you don't, maybe not everyone in your household needs a cell phone. Maybe you don't need a TV and satellite in every room. Maybe you don't need the high-speed internet constantly. Maybe you don't need extra vehicles and boats and all that kind of stuff. There are ways to cut back. And it's getting to the point, folks, that it's not just a hobby for what ifs, okay? Preparedness isn't just a hobby for those what ifs. It's becoming a real life, true survival scenario that we are living in right now. And I don't feel that I am exaggerating at all. I'm not claiming that it's the absolute worst it's ever been or the worst it's ever going to be. But things are changing on a daily basis to the point now that it's becoming very difficult to even keep up. To keep up with legislation, executive orders, proposed legislation, to look at what's happening with the health crisis, to look at what the UN and the World Economic Forum and other global entities are pushing, to see the cultural change, from everything from Coca-Cola telling their people to be less white to teaching our children that they can choose whatever gender they want to be, and it doesn't really matter what their preferences are because it's all about self-gratification, whatever makes you feel good. The planet is turning into a big dumpster fire, is what it is. It may not be at its peak yet, but I think it's been lit. And if you're very serious about doing what's best for your family, creating the best survival possibility, it's kind of like buying insurance. You want to buy the best that you can afford. You don't go looking at the absolute very cheapest. You look for the best that you can afford. And preparedness is what that is purchasing insurance. And the next level up of insurance is getting out of the cities and getting onto at least some kind of piece of property where you can be more self-sustaining, because having food and supplies on hand is good, but being able to live by your own two hands is much better. Being able to create some level of sustainability is going to be much better. And I know there's going to be people that say, well, what about this guy and this little house and this little homestead in the city on a half acre and a quarter acre and an eighth acre, and they've produced all this kind of food. Yeah, it's possible, but they're still dependent upon a system around them for it to work. And when you're out here, it may take work, but you can definitely set yourself up to where you're less dependent upon all these systems around you. And then you're also going to run into more people like you, so that you can start building connections and community with others like you. This is the reason why people live out like this a lot. It may not be the only reason, but I'm telling you, it's definitely a top reason for a lot of people anymore. The reason why I talk about the Ozarks, I've done the research, and I'm not going to say it's the best, because it may not be. But I did a lot of hard thinking years ago. I already lived here, but I was wanting to figure out if this was truly the best place for us. A lot of praying, a lot of research. And when I looked at everything, when I look at cost of living, the price that you can buy land at, I looked at the local laws and looked at homeschooling laws and gun laws and homesteading related laws, like collecting rainwater and building codes, things like that. When I looked at the climate, when I looked at the odds of natural disasters causing a real danger, I keep falling back to the Ozarks as being one of the best. It's not perfect, not by a long shot. There's still problems here, and there's still weaknesses here. But when you kind of balance it out with everything else going on and all of the other possibilities, I think it's a pretty good place. I've been told by 3 sources that I trust that they know, this is what they claim, believe it or not, it's your choice, but they claim that they have seen and been told by military officials in the past that the military has done analysis on the entire United States and where it's most survivable at, where you can be most survivable at. And they have maps of this, and that the Ozarks is one of the top places that they believe that you could survive catastrophes. The end point is, though, you've got to get out of these cities. You got to get your house in order. Come out of these cities of moral, repugnant moral standards, or the lack thereof of moral standards. Get out of these cities that are being taken over by more and more of a police state, big government, totalitarian, leftist, Marxist ideologies. The education systems are far worse. I mean, I wouldn't put my child in any education system, but if you have to, it certainly would be better in one of these little rural towns. And just the culture around it is very different. It's literally like coming into a complete different world by going from a big city to out here. I was talking to my neighbor just the other day, and he has family in California. He hasn't been back to California in a couple of years. But he said he was talking to, I believe it was some family member in California once, about the difference between here and there. And they were kind of joking with him about, what it's like. What's the difference between California and here? And he says it's like going to a complete different country. He said it's almost not even, there's no resemblance whatsoever. He said the difference between here and California. He said, I feel like I've stepped into a whole different world when I go there. And he said, I've got to the point I can't stand it. I can't stand going back. That's a common theme in a lot of places. And even the big cities that are a little bit more right-leaning, they're not so much right-leaning anymore. Folks, you've got to take this serious. Maybe some of you might be getting some tax return money. Maybe it'd be good to start thinking about putting that aside for making a move. I know that here in the Ozarks, properties are going fast, but you still can find them pretty cheap. There was one not that long ago, we're talking less than 6 months ago, within 5 miles of where we live. It was 5 acres, a small 3-bedroom, 1-bath farmhouse with a little barn and outbuildings, and it was an owner finance that sold for less than $50,000. They do exist out here. You gotta dig. I hate to say it like this because I know it makes me sound callous, But if you really are concerned about your safety, this has got to get to be a priority for you to get out of these places that it's going to become impossible for you to truly be safe and to truly be sustainable. And I don't know what else to say about it. I know that there's going to be some that say they just can't do it. We just can't get out. We've got all these reasons why we can't get out. At some point, you're going to have to make a decision of what's the most important things in your life. There are jobs available out here. You're not going to make as much, but you don't need as much. There's a lot of good people out in the countryside. Yes, they're a little standoffish from outsiders at first, but if they see that you're making an effort to blend in and to be part of the community and not to come in and change it and to bring your big city ways with you, they will accept you eventually, regardless of your skin color. There's always going to be racists. There's always going to be bigots. There's always going to be all this kind of stuff. That's anywhere you go. But at least out here, you can find like-minded people out in these rural areas. And you can find people that are good and accepting of the fact that you are out here to work hard and to take care of yourself. And if you do that, I think just about anywhere you go, you're going to be all right. All right, folks. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.